Hello guys, Alan here and welcome back to the channel. And this video is going to be our final part in our plumbing design layout in Revit. I'm so excited we've gotten this far in terms of plumbing inside of the Revit software. Alright, so we are going to be looking at some final parts, some representation and some stuff that we are going to be doing inside of this tutorial. Alright, we are going to be looking at a lot of stuff in there for this tutorial. So this is going to be our final part and I'm going to skip some of the stuff, all right, and wrap up with everything inside of the software. I'm going to wrap up with some of the things and I'm not going to do absolutely everything. I'm going to leave it some of them just as they are because they are basically the same thing. It's just as the same procedure at which we drew the pipes out and all of that. All right, you just really need to make sure that you follow the step and just draw out all of those pipes in all of those cases. All right, so I'm going to get started now with what we have to do in today's video, and I'm going to just take off all of these from there. And before I get started, if you're watching this video and you haven't liked or subscribed to my channel, please do make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. It's going to help me out a lot. So just make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. It's very, very important, guys. So just make sure you like and then subscribe to Alan Architectural. This channel is something new and something different. And for your information, I've also started a community where I'm kind of like training people for us to be able to maximize our workflow inside of Revit. So I'm training people in any aspect or field that they are working in inside of the Revit software, so they can actually use the Revit software to achieve absolutely anything that they want to achieve. All right, so I'm also available for any kind of job preferences. If you want me to actually work on the file for you, or you are finding challenges and you want me to also work on the file for you and deliver that for you, you can also send me the file and contact me through my socials or any of my emails, and I'll be glad to help each and every one of you out there. But don't forget, it's going to come at a fee as well. So I'm going to get started now with what we have to do now in today's video. I'm first of all going to go into the first floor plan. So I'm quickly going to go into the first floor plan, and we have all of these in here. So like I said, with the hot water system, you definitely have to bring in the hot water pipe in here, and then you can basically connect that and then draw out the hot water pipe, or you can let Revit generate, or you can allow Revit to generate all of those hot water pipe systems for you. All right, so you can let Revit generate that for you if you want. So with that being said, I'm not going to do any hot water or even do the supply cold water for this. It's basically the same process, so just follow the same process on how I created all of those pipes, and then you can create pipes right above the floor. And also when it comes to the roof top, it's also going to be the same process. All right, the topmost roof level is also going to be the same process. You would want to just create the you want to just put in the roof drain, and then that roof drain is what you are going to draw to actually come out through the ducts, and then you can separate that or allow it to join with the pipeline, or maybe you can harvest all of the rainwater differently into a different tank where you can use that water to actually maybe water your garden, or maybe use it for something, washing of cars in your house or something like that. So I'm going to skip off with the roof drains and all of those stuff in there. All right, so those are just basic stuff. So with the rest, I'm going to leave it up to you guys to be able to do all of those stuff in there. If you are finding challenges, just send me an email. All right, so in here, some of the fittings, like maybe you want to put in valves, stop valves, non-return valve, and all of those stuff. It's basically very simple. You just need to load in the family, find the particular position you want to put that valve, and then place it in here. So I'm going to place one valve here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to go into insert. I'm going to go into load family, and after getting into load family, I'm just going to go a folder back, get into the English Imperial, and I'm going to go into, first of all, let me go into pipe, and I'm going to go into valves. All right, so we have all of the types of the valves that you have: the butterfly valve, gauge valve, float valve, and all of those stuff. All right, so you need to find the particular one you want to use. So with me, I think I'm either going to go with the gauge valve or the butterfly one, but I'm going to use just the butterfly one. So just select this valve here, click on OK, and it's going to be loaded into the family, into Revit. I'm going to click on components, and then we have that valve here. All right, so I can place that valve on this pipeline, and then it's going to stop that pipeline in there. So we have this inside of our building, this valve inside of our building. Let me go into the ground floor plan and see how that is coming off. So I can just select this actually, and then just rotate it to absolutely wherever it's going to be. This is perfect. So we can keep the valve here. So we have the valve here, which is going to stop all of this water. So if we want to work here, we can actually work here. So you can label this valve and probably just use the particular valves that you want. Sometimes you want valves in all of the spaces. Like I said, most of the times in the kitchen, we usually put in angle valves to be able to control all of the stuff inside of the kitchen. So the angle valves, we can even use it to control the pressure of the cold water supply. If maybe the water is coming in very fast, we can use the angle valves right under the sinks to kind of like gauge it and control all the stuff in there, which is perfect. All right, so I'm going to skip with all of this stuff and get into serious business on how we can actually create some stuff and check some stuff. All right, so now I'm going to show you guys a little bit of cool stuff that you can do before we get into finalization of every single thing that we have in here. All right, so first of all, if I should click on this fixture, all right, any of this fixture in there, you notice in here we have system inspector. All right, so what you can do is you can click on the system inspector, and we can now say we want to check our hot water. So Revit is going to give you a pop-up menu asking you which of your systems do you want to check. All right, so let's say I want to check my hot water line. I want to check the hot water line. I want to find out if there's any problem in that line. All right, so I'm going to select that hot water line, click on OK in there, and then we are going to have this pop-up, this menu here, and then we are going to click on inspect. All right, so now Revit is going to show us the flow rate. All right, the flow rate of all of the direction of the flow for all of these systems you see in here. So you notice when the water comes out from here, it flows here, and then gets to this bath area, and then it also flows here, and then gets to all of these things in there. You notice it has a flow rate of 0.4 liter per second. All right, so now one thing you need to know is that all of the plumbing fixtures and all of those equipments and those WCs you see inside of Revit from the manufacturer, when you pay attention, I think recently I kind of like went to help a plumber fix one of a WC for the security man in our company, and I learned a lot of stuff. So when you pay attention to the box or the manual the WC comes with, all right, all of the fixtures in there, they have their flow rates which has been inscribed on them by the manufacturer. All right, so all of them have their flow rates. All right, the particular flow rate that is needed for those pipelines to be able to work. So those flow rates are embedded in all of these piping fixtures you see in here. So someone is going to ask me the flow rate in there, which is the 0.4 liter per second, is it coming from the booster pump or by gravity? All right, so it being the direct system, it means that it's coming from gravity. All right, but then one thing you need to know is that all of these plumbing fixtures have in them their own flow rate. So you can inspect this pipe fitting in there, and then you can just click on finish, and then you are basically just done with that. All right, so what I can do is I can hit on the tab key and select this pipe system layout. I can select this one, and then I can go in here and get to, so we are done with the system inspector, and then I can click on pipe pressure loss report. So I can go in here and then get the pressure loss report from the pipe in there. So you can come in here, available fields, and then the report fields. So you can, if you want to report any of these fields, you need to make sure you select them, and then you add them to the report fields in order. So you can select them, move up, and all of that, and then you can generate that report for that. All right, you can generate a report for that, which is perfect. So I'm going to click on this pipeline, and let's see what we have in here. All right, so in here, after selecting this pipeline, I can make sure I select, let's say, the hot water. I can just hit on the tab key to select almost all the hot water line, select all of them, and then I can go in here to that pipe sizes. All right, so I can go in there, and then we can now size the pipe. All right, I told you in the Revit can generate and size the pipe for us itself by itself. We don't need to necessarily go in there and then fix up all of those pipes. Revit itself can generate that and then size all of those pipes for us. So in here we have size method, and we can choose whether it's going to be friction or velocity. All right, so in here we can go with friction, and then we can go and velocity in there, and then we can go in here to the constraint, calculate size only, and then we can click in here, restrict size to a particular size in there, and then we can just click on OK, right? And then Revit itself is going to pipe size up all of those pipes for us, and that is how Revit works with this. I'm not going to size all of those pipes, but I just wanted you guys to know in case you did want to change that and apply that in there. All right, so I think I'm done with this in there. And someone might ask, definitely you would want to have like a separate floor plan for the sanitary, the waste from the WC, and then also the soil waste, and you want to have a separate floor plan for the hot and cold water supply. So it's very, very simple. So you can just go into the ground floor plan and then just right click in there, and then you can duplicate that view. So you can just duplicate that view, and then you have this view in there. So you can go in here and then you can rename this. So I'm going to rename this to cold and hot water supply, so to whatever one you want to do. So cold and hot water supply. All right, and then you can basically use this as your cold and hot water supply. So anytime I'm inside of this floor plan, I know, oh, this is for the cold and hot water supply. So I'll need to hide all of these fixtures, all of this soil and waste fixtures, all of this soil and waste supply lines. I'll need to hide all of them and just show only my cold and hot water supply system. All right, so um one thing I'm going to show you guys is also the piping system. All right, so in here some of you guys might not like the green color that is coming off with all of these pipelines and all of that. Some of you guys might not want that. You might want a different. So this is the cold and hot water supply. So basically this one is going to be for the soil, so I'm going to work with this one. Some of you guys might not want all of these colors in there. All right, so now if I should click on any of this in there, on any of these pipes, all right, in here when you get to the top in here with the modifier, you're going to notice here we have the piping system. All right, so if you should click on that piping system in there, and then you come to system selector, when you click on that drop down menu, you notice we have sanitary 1. All right, so it means that this pipeline is being set to the sanitary system. All right, if I should escape out of there, select this pipeline, you can also see it in the properties panel. All right, when you scroll all the way down to system type, you notice in here we have sanitary. All right, and we have a whole lot of other pipes in there. We have rainwater pipe, we have soil and waste. So if you change this to soil and waste, it's going to give you a different color or a different piping system. All right, so if I should click on this in there and just select this in there, it's going to give me a different kind of fill. So let me get back in here and let me change this to maybe rainwater in there. It's still showing a different color. Okay, so let me show you guys how you can actually select that. So if I should select this, maybe cold water, come into system piping, you notice it's set up for cold water. All right, so now we can actually change all of these that you see in here, all of these piping systems that you see in here. We can actually change all of them. So the system here is set to cold water, and we have the cold water, domestic cold water. We have all of this. So I can even change this pipeline to the domestic cold water line, and you notice that it says the domestic name cold water 1 is already in use. So I can change that to that, but I can basically go in here and then change it to soil and waste, and it's going to change to soil and waste. So some of us are not going to like this color. We would want a different color for all of these systems that we have in here. So you can basically work with that and change all of these here, and I'm going to show you guys how you can actually do that. So this is set mechanically for soil and waste, and then with the WC ones, you notice it's set up to also soil and waste. It's set to system. I'm going to put the mechanical one on sanitary. All right, so how you can actually change all of these and assign different colors to all of this pipeline is by heading straight into the family tabs right here, and then you need to find piping system. Click on that plus sign, and then you can open that up. All right, then we have this piping system here. So we have the soil and waste here. I can click on this soil and waste, and in here we have graphics. All right, so you can go into edit type, and then you notice we have that green color here. So I'm going to want to change this to maybe brown. When it comes to the soil and waste, I'm going to change this to brown, and I'm going to hit on apply, and you can actually select the line width for that. All right, you can make it thicker if you want. You can add a line width to this if you want. Now I'm going to show you guys the downside of this. So I'm going to click on OK for now. Just select that, click on OK, and then you notice in here all of those systems that are using, it's also going to apply. It's not going to apply for the first floor. So this is basically view specific. So let me click on this, and let me change this to soil and waste and see. All right, so this is going to apply for absolutely everything in there. So some of you guys might want a different color for your WCs, and you would want a different one for the sinks as well. So with the sinks, I'm going to leave them with the soil and waste, and with this one I'm going to put them on the sanitary, because I'd want a different kind of color specified for that one. So I'm going to click in here on the sanitary, and I'm going to go into edit, and I'm going to change this to probably this deep green color in there. Hit on apply, hit on apply, hit on OK in there, and I can come in here, and then I can change the system types to sanitary, and it's going to change in that green color. All right, so you can come in here and then basically change off all of those pipe systems for every single thing that we have in here. You can select this in there, and after selecting this, you can go into pipe systems, and you can change this to basically the pipe system that you want. All right, so I can use sanitary, use the soil and waste one. It's already in use, or let me just I can edit this one as well, and then change all of these to have that different color if I want in there. And you can do the same thing for the cold and the hot water supply as well. You can do the same thing for those ones as well, the cold and the hot water supply. So I'm going to go into the 3D view now, and I'm currently in the 3D view now. All right, so I'm going to change my level of detail to coarse in there, and when I change that to coarse in there, you're going to notice we have all of these symbols, these plumbing symbols. Now these are according to code in your country. So in some countries you are not going to have these symbols for all of those connections. All right, so now look at the symbols you have in there. All right, so I'm going to go back here into sanitary and click on sanitary, and let me just reduce this view a little bit. And when you come all the way here to the rise and drop with the material, I do not always want to touch that. Okay, so let's deal with the graphics. So if I should go into the graphics in edit type, and let's say I add a line width to that. So sometimes maybe with the sanitary, you want especially with the cold and hot water supply. So sometimes with the cold and hot water supply, let me show you guys that in the AutoCAD file. So you notice with my hot water supply here, I had dash and a dot, dash and a dot. So sometimes maybe you would want to represent this in the fine level of detail. You would not want to have it come off with you want to represent that in a coarse level of detail, and you would not want to have it show in a 3D form with some sort of like a pipe. All right, you want to show it in this line form. So when you come in here and then you maybe add a line, so you can basically find that particular line you want, dash, and then I can give it a little bit of thickness, add this, hit on apply, hit on OK. You notice all of those pipelines which are on those piping system have changed to that. All right, so now if I should change this back to the fine level of detail, it also still has that same pattern in there, which I find very annoying. And I maybe wouldn't want this. I wouldn't want this. So that's just, by the way, that's the downside about this. All right, so I'm going to go back in there, and I'm going to definitely uncheck that clear overwrite, and I'm going to just add in that green color for that. Hit on OK, hit on apply in there, and it's going to change for that. So that's the downside about that. if you change that for maybe only the course level of detail view, and when you come back in there and maybe you change it to fine, it's going to still show those line patterns in there. And when you come into the rise and drop, so all of those symbols you saw in there are what you are going to see in here. We have the yin and yang, and this is for the Chinese. If you know what yin and yang is, you can drop it in the comment section. I usually like the display of everything here, so I usually don't touch any of these in here. I just leave them as they have, but you can come in here and change that according to the code in your country or any kind of code that you want. And here with the calculation we have in here, we have the flows only. All right, so we can use Revit to kind of like bring out all of those stuff in there. All right, so this is perfect. We have all of these here. Now now we are going to start off with another stuff by, let's say we would want to tag all of these pipes. All right, we want to add tags to these pipes and label all of these pipes. So what you can do is you can go straight and click on this icon right here, and then you notice in here it shows the 50 mm diameter pipeline. All right, so it's sometimes going to give us a leader. All right, so maybe if you do not want the leader on your tag in there, you can just uncheck this, and then it's just going to place the pipe on, it's just going to place it on that pipeline in there. When I hit on the space bar, it flips that. All right, so you can just get away with that and not use the leader as well. So you can just come in here, place all of those leaders in there for all of your pipelines. You can come in here and then you can place all of these in there for this pipeline as well. So I can place it here for this one. So we have 100 millimeter, we have 50 mm also in here. Now some of you guys might not want the diameter in there. Some of you guys might maybe want to take the diameter off. It's very simple. You can go into systems and get into the mechanical piping settings in here, and when you get into the piping settings, you come in all the way here. We have the pipe size suffix, which is this you have in here. So you can take this off if you want. All right, and it's not going to show that in there. So you can take this off if you want, and it's not going to show that. All right, so that is how you can take off the diameter symbol in your label as well. All right, so I'm going to cancel out of there. And one more thing, so sometimes you might want to add like an abbreviation to all of these. So let's say with a cold water line, all right, let me just delete all of these sections I have in my view. I'm just going to delete all of those sections, and there's one more section here. All right, so sometimes you might have like with a cold water line, you would want some abbreviations to actually fill up with all of these that you see in here. So you come in here to system abbreviation, you notice there's nothing really in there. It's grayed out, and we can add that in the instance parameter. All right, so I'm going to escape out of there, and what you need to do is you still need to go into the piping system and find that domestic cold water. All right, so just double click on that, and when you double click on that domestic cold water, when you move all the way here to abbreviation here, you can find it in here. So you can add an abbreviation. So we are going to talk maybe cold slash water, and with this I'm going to put in the supply. So this is going to be the abbreviation for the cold water supply for this one. All right, and I'll need to tag that. So if I should tag this, change this in there, and I bring this here, you notice it doesn't show the system abbreviation I just did for that. So you notice when I click on that, when you head in here to system abbreviation, it shows the cold water supply. Let me go into the AutoCAD file so you see what I'm talking about. So we have the 20 diameter. You notice here we have some abbreviations on our pipeline. So you have the cold water supply, hot water PPR, connect to wash and basin, and all of that. All right, so you can set up all of those abbreviations for that, but you notice in here it's not showing with this one. So what you can do is you can double click on your tag in there to go straight into the family editor, and you can just select this and then go into edit label. So with the label in there, it's just showing the size. So we can make sure we find abbreviation. We can find the right ones that we would want to bring in for that. All right, so I can scroll all the way down, and let me just find that system abbreviation for this. So with this, it's just showing the size, and I'd want to bring in those abbreviations that we just set up. So we can use the description for this. Let me just scroll down a little bit and find that. So we can add a system type, system name, system classification. All right, this is it. So we are going to add in the system abbreviation. All right, so we are going to add that system abbreviation, bring it all the way here. You can add a suffix or a prefix to it. So with this, I'm going to put a space and then put a space bar in there. Maybe if you want this to be at the top, you can also do that for that. And I have this here. All right, so I can stretch this out because I want it maybe like this, and then I can go in here, load and override system. So now you notice in here we have the 35 cold water supply for this one. All right, so this is basically how you can basically achieve that to this one. All right, how you can actually achieve that by adding abbreviations to all of those tags and all of those pipes that you see in here. You can add abbreviations and all of that. And one thing also is you can also tag your bends. All right, so if I should click on that tag right there and I should select this one, you notice they said there are no tags available for my bends. All of those pipe fittings, you can load in some for your project. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back again, and with here I'm still in the English tab. You can see I'm going to go into annotations and I'm going to go into pipe. And you notice in here we have the M flat or set, M pipe fitting, so M pipe fitting size tag. So and we have the M pipe size tag. So I'm going to load in the fitting one for that, and you notice in here it's not working perfectly well because we need to add a leader to that. So it's kind of like works perfectly well for us. So I can add a leader to this anytime I want on the edges of all of these pipes. So I can bring this to the top and then add all of this in there. So it's telling me that this is being connected to 50 diameter. So you can go just double click on the tag and then you can go in there and then make changes to absolutely everything that you want to do inside of those tags that we have in there. All right, so that was just by the way, and I'm just going to select this and I'm going to select no for that, and also select this and also use no for that. All right, so that's how you can also tag all of those fittings and all of those pipelines that we have in there. All right, so now some of you guys might want to have some 3D representations. All right, so in here, like this washroom, since it's a typical washroom, so I might want to create a detail for this washroom. So what you can do is you can head straight into view and then you can create a call out view for this place alone, and then you can call in and then create a new kind of like section and 3D for this. So with this being done, I've created this view for that, and then I can just double click on the head and then I can go into the view of that pipeline in there. All right, so you notice in here we have this 3D view for this pipeline, which is perfect. I'm going to click on to get rid of that, and we have all of this connection. So you can actually create a different 3D view for your plumbing fixture. So let's say I'm going to want a 3D view for this. So initially, I think in the beginning of the tutorial, I said I wanted to turn off the architect's levels. So I can go in here to the view template, and with this view template, I can still come in here. Let me just cancel out of there, get into visibility graphics, get into annotation, or get into the Revit links and get into customize by links, annotation, graphics, and I can go into customize, and then I can make sure I find levels to actually turn off the architect's levels. So I can click on that, hit on apply, hit on OK, and the architect's levels are gone. All right, this is perfect for me. So when it comes to the 3D view, what you want to do is you would want to also duplicate that view. All right, so we can duplicate that view, and then we have this view here. So you might want to turn or pan around, just orbit around to the view that you'd want to bring out, or maybe you would want to bring the entire building. All right, it's also acceptable. You can bring out the entire building, but let's say I want to bring it this way. So what I can do now is I can just make sure I lock this 3D view. So you notice we have this building here, and then you can lock and save the orient lock view. So when you hold on the space key and then try to orbit, you are not going to be allowed to orbit. You can just pan around a little bit. You can just pan around, but you cannot orbit around the building. All right, so you can leave it here now, and then you can go ahead and then tag all of these that you see in here. All right, you can go ahead, and then in a 3D view you can also make sure you tag all of those pipelines and create all of those tags for your pipelines that you have in there. All right, you can create all of those pipelines for those pipe in there. With this I can bring it somewhere here, and then I can call it the and tag all of those 3D pipelines. All right, and another thing you can also do is you can select this, and then you can bring in the scope box. All right, where is that in there? And we can bring in that scope box, the selection box. We can use this selection box to just create a little bit of detail on this view. All right, we can bring it to create a little bit of detail on this view, which is not bad. And with this being said, I can go into the properties panel in here, and I can just find that scope box, section box right here, and it's been selected. So I can now bring this all the way to somewhere around here, and then I can bring this all the way to somewhere around here, and then I can send this all the way here. Let's say maybe I'd want to show much more detail for this area alone. All right, for just this area alone, I can just use this to actually bring this, and it's not going to affect the other 3D view. So the other 3D view is going to be like our main one, so that one is going to be like the one we are going to use to actually work with and create all of those 3D views and plans, and maybe put it on sheets and all of that. So that's how you can create all of this in there. All right, so now the next thing I want to show you guys is going to be Revit can actually create a schedule where it's going to calculate the quantities and all of those pipe fittings as well. So if you haven't watched my series on schedules, all right, it's very important that you go and watch that series, so you can actually come in here and then generate the total quantity of fittings, their sizes, the total length of pipe for maybe 100mm pipes, the total length for the 15mm cold water supply pipeline, and all of that is very important. So if you want to be able to generate all of that, you need to make sure you go and watch my schedule series on YouTube. Let me show you guys that series. So you can come all the way here and find this series. All right, this one here, which is the schedules. So I think I created schedules for different kind of aspects, but you can, if it's piping or plumbing you are doing, you basically understand it. You can just go in there and then use you can just use that same application to actually generate that for the pipelines in there. All right, so that was just by the way. I'm going to put this away, and yes, so we have all of these in there now being set up, and there are a whole lot of stuff that we can actually do when it comes to the plumbing in Revit. All right, there are a whole lot of stuff, and if I should go over every single thing in here, we might not end this tutorial. All right, so I'm going to end here with this being our final part, and we are going to take off with the next series on YouTube. I'm very glad I've been able to cover this plumbing series. This is something different on YouTube. All right, so I'm very glad I've been able to cover stuff in here, and if you have been able to watch everything from the beginning of this series to the end here, then I'm sure you can basically create a plumbing design for yourself as well. You can draw out those pipes in your layouts and create a plumbing layout for yourself. And if you're watching this video and you haven't liked or subscribed to my channel, please do make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. It's going to help me out a lot. And if you have any requests that you want to make, if you want my families, you want me to help you out on a file, on a project you are working on, you would want me to actually help you with all of those stuff, I'm available for all of those stuff. So you can send me an email, contact me through my socials right below this video, and I'll be very glad to help each and every one of you guys out there. It's been an interesting journey with you guys on this plumbing series, and I can also mirror everything here to the other side. I'm not going to do that now. I'll do that probably when I end the video. So it's been an amazing journey, and I hope you guys have found this series very interesting. You can drop a comment in the comment section if you want, and I'll catch you guys in the next series. Peace out.
I'm still working real hard on a Saturday. A future I don't see from a mile away.